Sở khởi sự doanh nghiệp này.
Ba dễ với con nè. Dạ dọn rồi ba.
Bây giờ sẽ làm sao?
Hi and welcome to the course Business Model Innovation. Option, if yes. Regularly in this course, you will encounter short videos like this one, where we take one famous startup and explain its business model, and especially what makes it so successful. The point of these videos is to make you more familiar with business model innovation and show in practice how the best companies apply it. In the promo video, we talked about Amazon, Spotify, and Tinder, and in this one, let's focus on Uber. Business model innovation which offers a better service.
Rồi, hả?
Ba
Biggest entertainment industry in the world. So here we go.
So let's start with customer segments. To fill out this block, you need to answer the following questions. Who are your most important customers? For whom are you creating value? As you know, accurate customer targeting is super important. So in this block, you really have to make a choice which kind of people will be your customers. And so you'll also need to decide
them. That's about all what you need to write in this block.
So now let's move on to the value proposition block. A value proposition is basically the main reason why your customers pay for your product. What does it bring to them? What value do they get by paying you? What needs are being satisfied? Also, how does this value proposition stand out from what competitors propose? What is the reason why
Now, even though YouTube and Facebook
Now let's move on to the channels block. Channels are the links between your value propositions and your customer segments. How do you sell to your customers and how do you deliver them your product or service? So that's about both sales and distribution. For example, sales channels can be your own stores, your online store, a partner store, direct sales, and so on. In general, write here all the touch points between your company and your customers when it comes to purchasing and delivering. First, how do they buy your product? Directly on the spot with the salesperson or by themselves online?
the spot during the conference itself.
Customer relationships describe the relation that a company has with its
Personal assistance to its advertising.
Let's move on to the revenue streams. This block speaks for itself. These are the different ways you collect money from your customers.
Great examples in the dedicated part.
Alright everyone, we arrived at the half of the business model canvas. We just saw all the blocks that are directly related to customers. Now let's take a look at the left part of the canvas, which has to do with the internal operations of the company. This is something that customers don't deal with. Let's start with key resources. These are the resources that your company absolutely needs to have to produce the value proposition, meaning to produce your product or service. But these are also resources that your other blocks require, like the distribution channels, revenue streams, etc. For example, you may need services from a cloud hosting company to make your app or website run. Or if you produce hardware, you might need a manufacturing facility. The types of resources that you write here can be physical, intellectual, like brands or patents, human, especially if what you're doing is knowledge intensive, like science, and financial. They can be owned by your company or rented from another one. To find them, just think about what does it require to make your business work.
For Twitch, one key resource is its own streaming platform. Discussed just after the next.
Let's move on to the key activities. This is basically what your company needs to do actively and on a regular basis to provide your value proposition.
Twitch organizes TwitchCon.
Now let's move on to the key partnerships block. This one is very
Partnerships facilitate the usage of the platform.
Okay, everyone, we arrived at the last block of the business model canvas, which is the cost structure. In this block, you have to write down what are the main costs involved to produce your value proposition. These costs can be both fixed and variable. Fixed costs can be rent,
Structure and office rent.
All right, everyone, we just arrived at the end of the business model canvas introduction marathon. As you can see, it's a great tool to describe how
And start the next lecture.
Bây giờ sẽ lắp vào rồi. Rồi. Rồi kiểm tra rồi. Vui lòng tự làm. Tiếp. 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 Đáp án không chính xác. Câu hỏi số 3. Họ làm tốt lắm. Rồi phần 3 tiếp theo. Tác nghỉ hơn. This content following not for following. Không chính xác. Tiếp. Lại main vào đó. Rồi. Rồi chia sơ có bạn làm tốt lắm. Rồi. Hoàn thành khóa học để nhận giấy chứng nhận của bạn. Rồi bây giờ câu hỏi mình bắt đầu làm bài trắc nghiệm. Nên contact rồi. Bạn làm tốt lắm. Tiếp. Rồi customer inventory không chính xác. Tiếp. Tốt lắm. Tiếp. Rồi. Rồi. Trải nghiệm 4. Làm hết các cái bài trắc nghiệm này. Marketing channel. Tiếp tục related to the filter. Nó không chính xác. Tiếp. Submit nhiều lần cũng được, không sao cả. Rồi. Rồi bây giờ các bạn trách nhiệm năng không? Rồi bây giờ tới trắc nghiệm 5 không? Bắt đầu. Rồi. Tiếp tục. Tiếp tục. chắc bắt đầu. Rồi set vacancy tiếp. Đáp án không chính xác. Tốt lắm, tiếp. Không chính xác, vui lòng thử lại tiếp. Tốt lắm, rồi tiếp. Không chính xác, tiếp. Rồi trắc nghiệm 7. Rồi trắc nghiệm 7 là trắc nghiệm cuối. Tiếp video mà áp tiếp. Đáp án không chính xác, tiếp tốt lắm. Rồi. Đang học vào cái này nè. Cái này là cái cô ta hướng dẫn. Rồi hết. Rồi bây giờ
Hi and welcome to the second part of this course. This is where stuff gets really exciting and it will become better and better. In part 1, we introduced
các bạn có thể kéo
It didn't exist before.
rồi tiếp. Hoặc có thể kéo tiếp hết.
most of the industries are now being disrupted by technology. Uber, Lyft, Didi, and Ola are disrupting the
Unleash your creativity. Let's go.
People love Airbnb because it's cheaper and it provides a lot of different kinds of housing offers that fit the needs of all kinds of travelers. You are not limited to hotel rooms anymore. Now, whether you're alone or a family of 6, you can find a unique place that fits you perfectly with the exact criteria that you like. Airbnb started off with customer innovation by creating a new market of people who would rent rooms in other people's homes. Before Airbnb, it was inconceivable. Lower prices and offer variety. Let's start with the value proposition and see how you can hack this block. This is about the qualities and performance of your product or service. To make it simple and not always repeat product or service throughout this course, let's call them both offering. As we already said, this is the area where most of the companies compete. Is used a lot today. All right, everyone, let's leave the offer problems and brainstorm solutions. So let's start with plenty of
Tiếp.
Okay, now
Rồi.
Alright guys, now that we've seen some beautiful web interfaces, let's take a look at what it means.
Rồi.
Alright, so we just reached the half of this lecture about So now let's see those that actually make a huge difference and disrupt industries by making customer experience a priority. First, let's start with the general product and service examples. But before we dive right in, pause the video again for a few minutes and think of 5 products that you have recently seen or used that you truly enjoyed using and that provided you with a memorable experience. Don't just focus on physical products. Think of services too. Write them down and then continue the video to see some more examples from our side. So, ready? Let's get back to Airbnb once again. One thing people are very afraid of is what happens if guests break things in their places or even trash them completely. It's a problem of trust. So, how did Airbnb overcome it? Well, they clearly explain all of it in this TED Talk, Trust by Design. But here's the sum up. First of all, Airbnb came up with
Your own product. Think of other
Okay, so we're getting close to the end of this session about design. the way they find what they need in the fastest.
Now let's see the last category for user experience design. And create only features that make
Wow, that was quite some information, and keep them for later reminders. Whether you like Tesla or not, you can't disagree with the fact that it's changing the automobile industry dramatically. Before Tesla, people would associate electric cars with toy cars, or will succeed better is back to the quality of the product and, most of all, the brand. Which one do you prefer? Hi guys.
Welcome back.
So now that we've seen how to disrupt the value proposition
Since the beginning and ultimately lead to exactly the
So let's start at the beginning. How can we disrupt the traditional ways of getting customers? Let's be honest here. Getting customers is, generally speaking, the
everywhere, and you might wonder how that is something new, right? But HubSpot was founded just in 2006, and they helped this strategy literally explode online. So it was innovative in a way for that moment. But customer engagement is not just about how you get, but also pockets. There are so many more examples like this.
We almost arrived at the end of this video. We saw many different ways to increase customer engagement, like building a community, generating loyalty, excelling at customer service. You can find out how to do that in our
Hey guys, and welcome back.
Hey there.
So in the
Customers don't know yet that they will want it someday.
Okay, I admit that sounds like it's super complicated to do. So let's leave it aside for now and first see how you can target. If you still have no clue. Now, with that being said, let's see another way how you can hack the customer segments block. This one is even more complicated.
And channels you use to reach your customers. So see you there. Hi and welcome back.
Hi guys.
So in this video, let's find out how you can innovate by disrupting your customer channels. It's already the fifth and also the last hack of all the different customer-centric disruptions we saw, which include 3 different blocks inside the business model canvas: customer relationships, customer themselves, and the channels. There are several tactics here that you can apply, and they sort of fit into 2 broad categories. The first are your different sales channels, and the second are your delivery channels. You see what I mean? We're not talking about marketing here. If you remember well, then this is something that we've covered when we talked about disrupting the customer relationships. To put it simply, your sales channels are the different places where your customers buy your product. Like when you want to buy an Adidas pullover, it can be the Adidas store, their website, or some other retailer store or website. And the delivery channels are the different ways in which they get it. You don't have to use just one channel for each. You can actually combine several of them. Just keep in mind that the goal is to think out of the box and find new ways to stand out from your competition. So let's start with the delivery channel.
Many different industries. Just think about music, software, video games, books, TV.
Now let's focus once again on digital products and everything that is delivered using electronic devices. First of all, you can't simply put anything that is delivered through the internet in one basket because there are plenty of devices. And inside these devices, there are plenty of different platforms. Of course, you have the main ones, like personal computers, tablets, and now more and more smartphones. But you also have smart TVs, gaming consoles, e-readers like Kindle, smart watches, and virtual reality headsets. There are companies that clearly missed the switch to mobile, so you always have to stay aware of the big trends. Let's take a look at advertising. Before, TV was the main and most expensive channel for advertising, and then there was Google on desktop. Then Facebook came in, and they also noticed how people were using their smartphones more than their computers. So Facebook created a nice app through which it could show ads to people.
Simply focusing on the product. Now that we've seen what can be done,
Always room for innovation to stand out from your competition.
so now let's see how you can do the same for physical sales channels. Because here as well, some companies had amazing ideas to outgrow their competition. Let's just start with the basic.
Example of how Amazon brainstormed.
So we hope that by now you're super inspired and have many ideas of how you can disrupt your sales and delivery channels. The idea is always the same. Think about ways to do things that are different from what's currently done in your industry. If you're selling something that is always sold in shops, well, why not try to sell it online or even on mobile? Or if it's something already sold through the internet, try to innovate further and see how you can tap into new different online channels like messaging apps, e-commerce platforms, VR platforms, or other devices. Always explore how you can go from traditional channels to new, innovative ones. This video also marks the end of the whole customer-driven disruption part. We talked about how you can disrupt the customer relationships block by hacking customer engagement, how you can hack the customer segments, and finally, this video, how you can hack your sales and delivery channels. Try to do things differently than what everybody else is doing in some of these areas. I know, it sounds hard, but if you at least put some time thinking about it, imagining different ways, you're already way ahead of many companies who only go the traditional way and eventually get disrupted one day. Just watch out, it's extremely difficult to be in all of these different areas. You might be tempted to innovate everywhere, but it's very hard and unrealistic to achieve because you might get lost in the process. So better concentrate on one particular block and disrupt it for real. But we still have more to discover in this course. There are also really cool resource-driven disruptions which have to do with the left side blocks of the business model canvas. And then the revenue-driven ones, for which we have a fully dedicated section in this course. So stay tuned. Hi guys, welcome back.
Hi everyone.
Welcome to our
Approach, data analysis, Now let's take a look at the second way of how you can disrupt your company's internal processes, the production processes. Key resources and key partnerships. Before we move on to the next part of the course, let's do an in-depth case study about automation and standard. Absolutely. For the pricing, I simply used a third-party application that connects to my Airbnb account and manages price for you. If you want to Hey there, in this video I'll give you probably one of my most important advice. I will reveal to you how I find the best practices but rather start by Hi everyone!
Hi and welcome back, guys.
So this is it. This is the last part of this course and it's all about disrupting revenue models. Wow, we've covered quite a lot.
Customers' expectations.
So let's get started with the first part, disrupting the dominant revenue model of your industry. To come back to the sock fancy example, subscription is an extremely to your doorstep. And for business, now let's take a look at another revenue model, which is also super popular today.
Or you can also pay per...
You see how companies combine several revenue models as a complementary revenue source for your business.
Since we just talked about how websites can take a cut from displaying ads to their audience, let's give them a cut from your revenue models.
Now let's recap this part by taking a closer look at a startup that disrupted its industry by innovating mostly on revenue models, and which is Spotify. The music industry has gone through a lot of changes in the way it's making money since a long time. Before, we used to buy CDs and to pay for all the songs on them at once. It wasn't possible to buy just that one song you liked most. Then Apple came and disrupted the industry by allowing to sell songs one by one for under $1. Unbundling the CD and its related revenue models was a major change, but despite this, many still found the price tag per song expensive and preferred to download it illegally. That's when Spotify came and disrupted once again the dominant revenue model with a freemium and later an advertising model. They allow millions of people to listen to their huge catalog of songs for free, but in return they also have to listen to a few ads from time to time. Spotify then distributes revenues from ads to all the artists who are played, but their disruptions don't stop here because they also offer a premium subscription, which gives users more features like the ability to create playlists, play songs from them in the order you want, and not be interrupted by ads. This membership costs $11.99 per month, and more than 40% of Spotify users pay for it, which is an absolutely huge conversion rate. This model seems to be working for now, and people are finally ready to pay the price that good music truly deserves. They even prefer Spotify to free illegal downloading in many cases. The music industry as a whole went through several waves of disruption, and most of them were based on revenue models.
Alright guys, we arrived at the end of this part, so let's quickly recap. We saw a lot of different revenue models in this course, including subscriptions, freemium, micropayments, advertising, commission-based and affiliate models, as well as licensing and franchising models. And we saw many different examples of how companies disrupted the dominant revenue model of their industry by collecting money in a different way than their competitors. So take some time now and think about the current dominant revenue model in your industry and brainstorm how you could apply a completely different revenue model to it. You can take, for example, those we talked about or others we didn't have time to mention. Think about other industries and ask yourself, what if I take the revenue model from this industry and apply it to my industry? What would happen? Sure, most of the time the result will seem completely crazy to you and quite counterintuitive. Like, would you really subscribe to a barbershop instead of paying a one-time fee? The girls probably won't, but what about the guys who need to go there regularly? Who knows, it might work. Also, make sure to come up with many different revenue models you can put in place at the same time. The more the better, because you will not be dependent on just that one revenue stream. Just you need to go and test them out. That's the only way to know if they will work. There's another way that you can look for innovative revenue models for your business. And that's something we will cover in the next part of this course called Why People Pay.
Automating surprise and membership software purchase.
Alright, so we previously discussed about So another reason that makes people buy stuff is the loss aversion. So imagine that you're paying for a product or a service, and for some reason, if you stop paying for it, it would be very annoying to switch to another provider, or it would be too costly. Then it means you keep paying because of loss aversion. This includes all kinds of products, not just the basic necessities. For example, Google Drive and Dropbox lure people in by offering a certain amount of storage for free. But once you upload a huge number of your files and reach the limit, you know it becomes tough not to pay. You will either need to create a separate account, which means you have your files in different places, or if someone else proposes a cheaper option, you'll need to transfer all your files to that new provider. And since all of this is very annoying, you'll most likely just purchase a subscription and stay with your existing provider. So a very widespread technique to generate loss aversion is called locked in. When you literally lock people in your product or service. Apple does this with its chargers, for example, or simply all the compatibility problems between Apple and other devices. This is done on purpose to keep you buying Apple products. But you can be nicer and create a different way to lock people in with all kinds of loyalty programs. In that case, using another service than yours will create a financial disadvantage for your customers. All airlines do this, like Air France KLM with Flying Blue, for example. The more you fly with them, the more miles you get, and eventually it gives you great discounts on their flights, so you don't want to use other airlines or you won't get these discounts. But even easier things like a loyalty card at a barber shop will create a loss aversion and make people come back to your place, because you'll accumulate points for a future discount. So loss aversion is usually created artificially by companies using various techniques. But real fear for disruption, especially now let's go away from the and whenever you need it. People pay to access music because although they have no tangible. When it comes to friends and community, combine together. And if you want to push, don't hesitate to let us know.
So now let's see how you can do the same for physical sales channels. Because
Sometimes it fails, but others they succeed.
Before we move on to the next part, automate everything, absolutely all of these steps. So let's see how I did that. For the pricing, out of all the companies and technologies mentioned in our business model. So let's start using ChatGPT to find a program that focuses. So this is very general, but what you can notice from here, even if you think there is not enough information on it in English. Now I want to show you another approach to get ideas for your pictures of interiors of people. Another approach you can use for this, I'll show you ways to. Now let's look at how to do this. Maybe reach out to ChatGPT can also help us improve the customer journey. So throughout this course, date or anything like that, you just need name, email, and pay. Now, speaking about use clear and concise language you want by adding their SEO. So now let's see how ChatGPT. You don't understand what is even the need. now let's try with another product, for example, and things like this. All right, now we'll have some fun creating actual images of Play with it. If you have the free version, you can generate about 25 of those groups.
Đúng rồi, bây giờ sẽ thực hành thôi. Lên giấy chứng nhận. Rồi đã hết cái bài khởi sự doanh nghiệp, bây giờ mình sẽ còn đã học hết chưa? Bây giờ ta gọi là Fpl gọi là học xong luôn rồi, hết rồi. Cái này đã học xong rồi, bây giờ ta nhận giấy chứng nhận rồi.